Hello, back again for another round of reading the one and the only, and currently in the modern era back on the bestseller list, Suetonius's The 12 Caesars. How about that? Ancient stuff just keeps rolling back around. Last time we left off, good old Caesar, still not emperor yet, was in the civil war with Pompey. Pompey, who was running all over the freaking place, Caesar tried to get him. They're skirmishing back and forth, and we left off on paragraph 36 with Caesar making the claim Pompey knew not how to conquer, and still making those bold statements. So we're going to jump right into paragraph 37. I'm going to take this down as far as I can go before my mouth dries out. I want to see how far into the Civil War we get, and maybe if we get past it, who knows? Because I don't read ahead. I have no idea what's going to happen. Reading this for the first time, and I'm doing this for me, for reading, because I take Latin and Greek, and doing this for anybody else out there who might be like me, who's not an academic, who's a blue collar worker, who grew up not around the classical world or history, or was never encouraged to read, but you've heard of these things, and in the back of your mind, you're like, maybe I should read that one day. If I can read this and encourage any of y'all out there to read it, to go grab a copy. Sometimes you can find them for dirt cheap on Amazon and the Kindle. Sometimes you can find them free PDF if you look around. Just Google search it. But you can find these and read them for yourself and get to learn these individuals instead of just the sort of wishy washy uh, picket fence version that I grew up with, which is just Caesar conquered, Weenie Weedy Weeky, stabbed in the forum. He was emperor. Boom. And oh, great general. And nothing. There's been so much about his life in this. We're still on him. I'm a few pages in, and we're still on Caesar. So we haven't even gotten to the other 11 emperors yet. So we're going to kick it off right now. Hope you'll join me. And let's see what paragraph 37 says. For the victories obtained in the several wars, he triumphed 5 different times after the defeat of Scipio, 4 times in 1 month, each triumph succeeding the former by an interval of a few days, and once again after the conquest of Pompey's sons. Oh. His first and most glorious triumph was for the victories he gained in Gaul, the next for that of Alexandria, the third for the reduction of Pontus, the fourth for his African victory, and the last for that in Spain. And they all differed from each other in their varied pomp and pageantry. On the day of the Gallic triumph, as he was proceeding along the street called Velabrum, after narrowly escaping a fall from his chariot by the breaking of the axle tree, he ascended the Capitol by torchlight, 40 elephants, carrying torches on his right and left. Amongst the pageantry of the Pontic triumph, a tablet with this inscription was carried before him: I came, I saw, I conquered. Good old Waney Weedy Weeky. Not signifying, as other mottos on the like occasion, what was done, so much as the dispatch with which it was done. So it's interesting because I know they say, Suetonius' stuff isn't always true. Ancient historians kind of, they're like the tides coming in and out with accuracy, historical accuracy. Um, but I have heard over the years that Waney Weedy Weeky Caesar maybe didn't say it. Here it's brought up as literally like a tablet carried by some guy in front of him. So may not have said it. Definitely was marching around with it at one time, in a triumph of all things. So, I mean, I guess that's the place to do it. Paragraph 38. To every foot soldier in his veteran legions, besides the 2,000 sesterces paid him in the beginning of the Civil War, he gave 20,000 more in the shape of prize money, because Caesar knew how to line pockets of his soldiers. He likewise allotted them lands, but not in contiguity, that the former owners might not be entirely dispossessed. To the people of Rome, besides 10 modi of corn and as many pounds of oil, he gave 300 sesterces a man, oh, which he had formerly promised them, and 100 more to each for the delay in fulfilling his engagement. He likewise remitted a year's rent due to such houses in Rome as did not pay above 2,000 sesterces a year, and through the rest of Italy for all such as did not exceed in yearly rent 500 sesterces. To all this he added a public entertainment and a distribution of meat, and after a Spanish victory, two public dinners. For, considering the first he had given as too sparing and unsuited to his profuse liberality, he, 5 days afterwards, added another, which was most plentiful. And so I don't know, like bribery was common thing in Roman politics. But I'm thinking when I read this, how much of this was bribery? How much of this was just he's glad he won so much, and he's just grateful for all the people who helped him get there? Um, is it a mix of both, one or the other, or just promise he's keeping his word to people? It's interesting. Paragraph 39. The spectacles he exhibited to the people were of various kinds, namely a combat of gladiators, and stage plays in the several wards of the city, and in different languages. Hmm. Likewise, Circensian games. Interesting. Would like to know what that is. Wrestlers and the representation of a sea fight. And so you know, this is before the Colosseum. The Colosseum is built much later. In the conflict of gladiators presented in the Forum, Furius Leptinus, a man of praetorian family, entered the list as a combatant, as did also Quintus Calpenus, formerly a senator and a pleader of causes. The Pyrrhic dance was performed by some youths, who were sons to persons of the first distinction in Asia and Bithynia. In the plays, Decimus Liberius, who had been a Roman knight, acted in his own piece, and being presented on the spot with 500,000 sesterces and a gold ring, he went from the stage, through the orchestra, and resumed his place in the seats, allotted for the equestrian order. In the Circensian games, the circus being enlarged at each end, and a canal of the young nobility drove chariots, drawn some by four horses, and likewise rode races on single horses. The Trojan game was acted by two distinct companies of boys, one differing from the other in age and rank. The hunting of wild 5 days successively, and on the last day a battle was fought by 500 foot, 20 elephants, and 30 horse on each side. To afford room for this engagement, the goals were removed, and in their space two camps were pitched, directly opposite to each other. Wrestlers likewise performed for 3 days successively in a stadium provided for Martius. A lake having been dug in the little Codetta, ships of the Tyrian and Egyptian fleets containing 2, 3, and 4 banks of oars, with a number of men on board, afforded an animated representation of a sea fight. To these various diversions there flocked such crowds of spectators from all parts that most of the strangers were obliged to lodge in tents erected in the streets, or along the roads near the city. Several in the throng were squeezed to death. Amongst them were two senators. Right. Come to Rome, come for the excitement, stay for the shows in the theater, get killed along the way. Uh, so, we have now come to paragraph 40. Turning afterwards his attention to the regulation of the Commonwealth, he corrected the calendar, which had for some time become extremely confused through the unwarrantable liberty which the pontiffs had taken in the article of intercalation. To such a height had this abuse proceeded, that neither the festivals designed for the harvest fell in summer, nor those for the vintage in autumn. He accommodated the year to the course of the sun, ordaining that in future it should consist of 365 days without any intercalary month, and that every fourth year an intercalary day should be inserted. That the year might thenceforth commence regularly with calends, or 1st of January he inserted 2 months between November and December, so that the year in which this regulation was made consisted of 15 months, including the month of intercalation, which, according to the division of time then in use, happened that year. Paragraph 41. He filled up the vacancies in the Senate by advancing several plebeians to the rank of patricians. I mean, I guess, yeah, you do have vacancies in the Senate. There's at least two dead from, you know, massive bodies from, yeah, and whoever else is gone. And also increased the number of praetors, aediles, quaestors, and inferior magistrates, restoring at the same time such as had been degraded by the censors or convicted of bribery at elections. Again, still interesting. Bribery is a thing in Roman politics, but you can still get put out there for bribery. So I guess that means you got on someone's bad side. The choice of magistrates, he's so divided with the people that, accepting only the candidates for the consulship, they nominated one half of them and he the other. Okay, it's a lot of influential power for him. The method which he practiced in those cases was to recommend such persons as he pitched upon by bills dispersed through the several tribes to this effect. Quote, Caesar, the dictator to such a tribe, dot, 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 I recommend to you that by the favor of your votes they may attain to the honors for which they sue. Unquote. He likewise admitted to offices the sons of those who had been less proscribed. The trial of causes he restricted to two orders of judges, the equestrian and senatorial, excluding the tribunes of the treasury, who had before made a third class. The revised census of the people he ordered to be taken neither in the usual manner or place, but street by street, by the principal inhabitants of the several quarters of the city, and he reduced the number of those who received corn at the public cost from 320 to 150,000. To prevent any tumult on account of the census, he ordered that the praetor should every year fill up by lot the vacancies occasioned by death from those who were not enrolled for the receipt of corn. Okay. I mean, he just makes an incredible amount of broad, sweeping changes. And I'm wondering, like, what the street level reaction was to that, and the senatorial reaction as well. You know, was everybody happy with that? Did they riot? Did they fight? Did they just say, okay? Paragraph 42. 80,000 citizens having been distributed into foreign colonies, he enacted, in order to stop the drain on the population, that no free man of the city above 20 and under 40 years of age who was not in the military service should absent himself from Italy for more than 3 years at a time, that no senator's son should go abroad, unless in the retinue of some high officer, and as to those whose pursuit was tending flocks and herds, that no less than a third of the number of their shepherds freeborn should be youths. He likewise made all those who practice physic in Rome and all teachers of the liberal arts free of the city, in order to fix them in it and induce others to settle there. With respect to debts, he disappointed this expectation which was generally entertained, that they would be totally cancelled, in order that the debtors should satisfy their creditors according to the valuation of their estates, at the rate at which they were purchased before the commencement of the Civil War, deducting from the debt what had been paid for in interest either in money or by bonds, by virtue of which provision about a fourth part of the debt was lost. He dissolved all the guilds, except such as were of ancient foundation. Crimes were punished with greater severity, and the rich being more easily induced to commit them because they were only liable to banishment, without the forfeiture of their property, he stripped murderers, as Cicero observes, of their whole estates, and other offenders of one half. And I wonder how fast he did all this. I mean, I wonder if he was just like modern day executive ordering stuff, just signing things left and right, or was this like, weeks and months had to go by? I think I will go one more, paragraph 43, and then that'll be it for this video. He was extremely assiduous and strict in the administration of justice. He expelled from the Senate such members as were convicted of bribery. Okay? And he dissolved the marriage of a man of praetorian rank who had married a lady 2 days after her divorce from a former husband, although there was no suspicion that they had been guilty of any illicit connection. Huh. He imposed duties on the importation of foreign goods. The use of litters for traveling, purple robes, and jewels, he permitted only to persons of a certain age and station, and on particular days. He enforced a rigid execution of the sumptuary laws, placing officers about the markets to seize upon all meats exposed to sale contrary to the rules, and bring them to him, sometimes sending his lictors and soldiers to carry away such victuals as had escaped the notice of the officers, even when they were upon the table. Okay, our guy is our guy's, I would say he's making waves, but politically speaking, he's making tidal waves. Uh, Dude's not messing around at all. He's rewriting, he's restructuring Rome, just all across the board. I mean, he's in some instances he's shifting around the foundations of the social and political foundations of Rome itself. He's I can start to see why that would irk people. Too much change too fast. And I wonder if all this is going to play into it. How much of this is going to play into those that that corral, that posse, to use a Wild West phrase, of men in the Senate and around that who will inevitably murder him at the feet of the statue of Pompey. How much of this plays into it, or is it going to be for like some completely different reason why they kill him? I mean, I'm anxious to want to see, but I've promised I'm not reading ahead. I'm not going to. We're going to see what the next paragraphs lead up to. That's it for this one. I hope you liked everything. I hope you learned something. I hope you, if you liked it, like, subscribe, the usual YouTube jazz. Um, but I appreciate you showing up and watching any portion of this video, or even just, clicking it for a second, saying who. I'm just wondering who the heck's this guy. But yes, I'm very fascinated by this, and we're still on the first Caesar, the guy who had the name, and I'm really interested in his whole life now. I'm going to see what pieces of information out of those paragraphs I can glean to make shorts out of, so stay tuned for those. But other than that, um, we're done with this video. Thank you much. I hope you come back around, and I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe out there. And also remember to, if you can, go somewhere so you can say you came, see it, and if possible, conquer.